Hey guys, it's Panjano here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys the updated VALORANT Ultimate FPS Increase Guide. This video is going to be helping you guys achieve the very best gameplay experience possible, regardless of your system specs, and we're going to be achieving this by giving you guys the best competitive settings, increasing your FPS to as high as it can possibly be, reducing your input latency, fixing any lag and stuttering you might be experiencing as well, and overall giving you guys the very best experience for the highest competitive edge. At the end of the video, if you are happy with the results and have enjoyed the video, please do consider pressing the like button as it is deeply appreciated, and leaving any feedback, suggestions or other tweaks and tips you might have in that comment section down below, as it is always fantastic to hear from you guys. And if you guys do enjoy this sort of content, please do consider pressing that subscription button alongside the bell notification to be notified instantly whenever a new video goes live on the channel. Now, before jumping into any optimizations within inside of this video, one of the most important things you can do to ensure that you have the best gameplay experience possible on VALORANT is to ensure that you're running on the May 2020 update to Windows 10, which is Windows 10 version 2004. Downloading and installing the update will mean that you can keep all of your files and folders, you will not lose any data, and more importantly, you'll gain a ton of new features within inside of the operating system. You'll gain access to some of the new settings within inside of the latest version of Windows, and benefit from some of the adjustments to the operating system, meaning that we have less steps to do within inside of the FPS guide to achieve the best performance. Navigate to the bottom left hand side, click on the Windows button. First of all, type in WinVer just like so, then click on the WinVer command, and as you can see for me, I'm running on version 2004. You want to be running on 2004 or newer. To update your version of Windows 10, navigate down to the OK button, navigate down to the bottom left hand side, click on the Windows key, type in check for updates, click on the check for updates utility, navigate down to the check for updates button, click this once, and any updates that are available to install will then pop up. The update in which we're interested in, if it does pop up for you, is going to be the download and install Windows 10 2004 update, which might be available for most of you watching. Assuming we are now running on the latest update to Windows 10, we can jump straight on into the game optimizations. Go to your documents, go over to this PC, go into local disk C drive, Riot Games, VALORANT Live. But inside of here, we're going to go down to the VALORANT application, right click on the application, go down to properties, go to the compatibility tab, ensure that disable full screen optimizations has been checked, click change high DPI settings, check on override high DPI scaling behavior, press OK, apply and OK. We're then going to repeat that optimization by going inside of the shooter game folder, go inside of binaries, Win64, again right clicking, properties, compatibility, disable full screen, change high DPI, override high DPI, OK, apply and OK. That applies a basic optimization to Windows to stop Windows using its default full screen optimizations, which can drastically reduce your input latency and boost FPS as well. We can then apply a quick tweak to Windows itself by navigating to the bottom left hand side, clicking on the Windows button, typing in focus space assist, clicking on the focus assist settings, go to off. We can then go ahead and exit out. We can follow that optimization up by navigating to the bottom left hand side once again, clicking on the start button, typing in game space mode, clicking on game mode settings. But inside of game mode itself, make sure that game mode is switched to the on position. We can then navigate over to the Xbox game bar. I'd recommend turning game bar off, then navigating over to captures and ensure that all of the options within inside of here are unchecked and turned off. We can then go ahead and exit out of those optimizations. And we're now going to look into a program on which I recommend everyone watching this video goes ahead and tries out, which is actually going to be the Process Lasso tool, which you can find in the description down below. This program is basically a glorified version of the Windows Task Manager, which you can access by going to the taskbar, right clicking and going inside of Task Manager. The reason we want to use this program instead of the Windows Task Manager is that any options we set within inside of this program are automatically applied every single time we boot the game, whereas with Windows Task Manager, these optimizations need to be set every single time you boot the game, and if you forget them, they will not be running. I would recommend going over to the download section, downloading the program, opening it up and installing it to your PC. Once you're met with this screen, you can just simply leave the default options, then press next, then press finish. The program does have a pro mode, but we do not need that for any of the optimizations we're going to be setting, so just go ahead and press cancel and press continue, and the Process Lasso tool will open up. Now, to apply the optimizations we're going to be setting with inside of this tool, the game actually needs to be running in the background, so for now, we're going to minimize out the program, and we're going to be coming back to those steps before we boot into the game. It's recommended to take yourself to the bottom left hand side, go to the Windows button, type in %temp% and press enter. If you've never been in here and done this yourself already, this folder can sometimes be in excess of around about 50 plus gigabytes, so do let me know how much stuff you managed to remove from here yourself. Once we're in here, simply highlight and drag all of the files and folders, right click, then select delete. If you're met with this prompt, click do this for all current items, and then hit skip. And if you're met with it again, do the same options. Then the only files and folders which are remaining with inside of here were the only ones Windows was using, and everything else was an excess caching file, simply taking up space in your PC and is no longer needed. And I'm going to take this opportunity to quickly shout out one of my latest videos in which you guys might want to follow along with if you've got an extra 10 minutes or so, and that is my ultimate guide to removing and cleaning up all Windows 10 cache. You can see the video on screen now. You can find links to the video by using the card in the top right hand side of the screen, and in the description down below, where you'll be finding a bunch of other useful tutorials in which I would recommend following along with if you have the time. This now brings us down to a quick Discord optimization. Navigate inside of Discord, navigate over to the bottom left hand side to your user settings cog. With inside of here, we're going to go over to the left hand side and start off by going to overlay. Go to the enable in-game overlay and switch this to the off position, as this can increase your input latency and we do not want that. Then navigate back to the left hand side once again, navigate down to the appearance tab, scroll all the way down to the bottom to the advanced tab. If you guys are running on a medium end to ultra high end gaming PC, it is recommended to come in here and turn hardware acceleration off, then go ahead and press OK. Proceeding on from there, this now brings us to one of the most important optimizations in which you can apply to ensure that you guys are getting the lowest input latency possible with inside of Valorant, especially with inside of the latest updates. You'll be seeing better results from following along with this step for Nvidia users, as this utilizes one of the brand new Nvidia technologies which is just released with the brand new game ready driver. If you happen to be running on an AMD Radeon GPU, it's also recommended to follow along with as many steps shown as you can possibly do with inside of your graphics settings to ensure best results. For Nvidia users, to utilize this brand new technology with inside of the drivers, you have to have the brand new September 17th driver installed to your PC. If you haven't already manually downloaded this driver yourself, navigate inside of the description down below and click on the GeForce driver download link to be brought to this webpage found here. With inside of here, you can manually search for the GPU you have if you wish to do so, or you can just navigate up to the automatic driver updates tab, click on download now, download the utility, install it. It will then get you up and running on the latest driver. If you want to manually install your graphics card driver, simply put in your graphics card details. Once your details have been set correctly, click on start search. After a few short moments, scroll down. You'll then be seeing the GeForce Game Ready driver, and the version we're going to be looking for is 456.38 or newer. Go over to get download, then navigate over to the right hand side to download now. Once the driver is finished downloading, simply open the driver up. You'll then be brought into the Nvidia graphics driver installer. Simply click agree and continue, follow all the on-screen prompts, and it will then update you to the latest graphics card driver. Now that you've installed the latest Nvidia graphics driver, this new technology, which comes in the form of Nvidia Reflex, will now be available inside of the in-game options, in which we'll be tweaking around with later on. And for those of you running on an AMD Radeon based graphics card, it's a very similar process. Navigate inside of the description down below and click on the AMD Radeon driver download link. You'll be brought to this web page. Navigate over to the auto detect and install Radeon graphics for this PC, click on download now, download the utility, open it up. We'll then get you up and running on the latest graphics card drivers. We then need to apply a few quick optimizations to the graphics driver settings themselves to ensure that we're getting the best performance. This is incredibly fast, easy, and most of all safe to do. Right clicking, either going inside of the Nvidia control panel or the AMD Radeon settings panel, depending on which graphics card you have. To start off with inside of it, go to adjust image settings with preview, ensure that the use advanced 3D image settings middle option is checked. Go down to the bottom right hand side and press apply. Navigate over to the left hand side to manage 3D settings. We can start off by going inside of image sharpening, going to the drop down menu, and I recommend setting this to about 50%, making sure that GPU scaling is not checked, then press OK. I'd then recommend coming down to low latency mode, going to the drop down menu and either setting this to on if you have this option available to you. Otherwise, if you just have off and ultra, go with ultra, but if on is available, go with on. Scroll down, go to OpenGL rendering GPU, go to the drop down menu, set this to your graphics card, going over to power management mode, going to prefer maximum performance with inside of here, then going over to shader cache, selecting on, texture filtering anisotropic sample optimizations on, then navigating down to texture filtering quality and setting this to high performance, then going down to threaded optimizations and ensuring that this is set to auto. Once that's then been set, go to the bottom right hand side and apply those options. This now leads us on to the AMD Radeon settings. For these, you need to navigate onto your desktop, right click, open up the AMD Radeon software panel. With inside of here, we're then going to be navigating over to the gaming tab. Then with inside of here, we're going to look for global settings and go to global graphics. To start off with these settings, we're going to be going over to AMD Radeon anti-lag, turning this on. Radeon chill is going to be disabled for most people. The only time you should turn this on is if your laptop or PC has overheating issues at high FPS and you wish to cap it. But if you're looking for the best FPS possible and your PC is adequately cooled, turn this off. Radeon image sharpening should be enabled. I personally like to turn this up to around about 50 to 60%. Radeon enhanced sync can be enabled or disabled depending on your personal preference and whether you wish to use it or not. Wait for vertical refresh should be switched to always off. We can then go down to the advanced settings. Anti-aliasing should be set to use application settings. Anti-aliasing method should be set to multi-sampling. Morphological anti-aliasing should be disabled. Anisotropic filtering should be disabled. Texture filtering quality should be set to performance. Subsurface optimization should be enabled. Tessellation mode set to AMD optimized. It is also recommended to come inside of here and reset your shader cache to make sure that you've cleared out all of the old files in which you no longer need. Those are the basic settings in which are going to allow you to achieve the best FPS possible with inside of the game. We can then go ahead and exit out of our AMD control panel and continue on. So assuming you guys are now running on the latest graphics card drivers and the latest version of Windows 10, you'll have a brand new option available to you if your system specs support it. Navigate to the bottom left hand side, click on the Windows key, type in GPU space settings, click on the graphics settings tab. With inside of here, if you have updated your Windows graphics card driver and have supported hardware, the option for hardware accelerated GPU scheduling will be available with inside of here. If this option is available, navigate over to the flicker switch and turn this to the on position. Whether this option is available for you or not, we're also going to be going down to browse. We're then going to navigate over to the left hand side to this PC, go inside of local disk C drive, or wherever your Valorant is installed, go inside of Riot Games, Valorant, Live, Shoot a Game, Binaries, Win64, then selecting the Valorant Win64 shipping application, selecting add. With inside of here, once that's then been added, scroll down, find Valorant, go to the options menu, then ensure that the high performance section down here at the bottom has been selected, then press save, and we can then go ahead and exit out of the graphics settings. We're then going to apply a few quick and effective tweaks to our in-game config. To do this, navigate to the bottom left hand side, click on the Windows button, type in %appdata %, just like so, and press enter. With inside of this page, go up to the navigation bar at the top, click where it says app data, then go inside of local, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to be looking for the V section, go inside of the Valorant folder with inside of here, go inside of saved, go inside of config. With inside of here, depending on how many profiles have played on your PC, you'll either have one or a few of these folders with the random letters and numbers. If you have more than one of these folders with the letters and numbers, you will need to repeat this step for all of them. Go inside of the folder, go inside of Windows, then go inside of the game user settings. What we're interested in doing is navigating down to the bottom by scrolling all the way down. We're then going to start off by going to the foliage quality, setting this to 0, effects quality 0, texture quality 0, post-processing 0, shadow quality 0, anti-aliasing quality 0, view distance quality should be set to 1. Then this now brings us down to one of the most important options with inside of this entire video. On the right hand side now, you'll be seeing some values in which are recommended to follow along with depending on your system specs. And it's recommended if you're running on a system spec on the right hand side to copy the number which is next to it. But for the most part, even if you're running on a very good gaming PC, I'd recommend going with around about 90 with inside of here. Once that's then been set according to the recommended setting on the right hand side for your PC, go up to the top left hand side, go ahead and click on save. You can then go ahead and exit out of those game user settings, exit out of the folder. This now brings us on to the step in the video where we're actually going to be optimizing our Windows power options to ensure that we get the best FPS possible. Now there's going to be two main settings with inside of here, and these options are going to differ depending if you're running on an AMD Ryzen based system or an Intel based system. For this, you need to navigate to the bottom left hand side, click on the Windows button, type in power space plan just like so, click on the edit power plan option. With inside of here, go up to the navigation bar found here at the top, click on power options. With inside of here, we're then going to go to show additional power plans. Now if you're running on an Intel based system, you want to go ahead and actually enable the ultimate performance power plan, which is very simple and easy to do, and I'll be showing you how to unlock this in a few minutes. For those of you running on an AMD Ryzen based system, you'll be wanting to use one of the AMD Ryzen based power plans. You should be seeing AMD Ryzen balanced or AMD Ryzen high performance. If you see high performance, go with high performance. If you see balanced, just go with balanced. But ensure that it is the official AMD Ryzen power plan. If you aren't seeing any of these AMD Ryzen based power plans with inside of your power plan options, navigate into the description down below and click on the chipset driver link. With inside of there, you'll then be brought to AMD's support page where we can find the best drivers for you. With inside of here, you'll simply scroll down and navigate down to chipsets. For those of you running on a Ryzen desktop based system, you're going to be going with AMD socket AM4. You then simply need to click on the chipset or model of the motherboard in which you have installed. So if you have an X570, go with X570. If you have a B350, go with B350. I'm going to be going with B450. Select your drive, then click on submit. With inside of it, then select your operating system, and you'll then see the AMD chipset driver available. Click on download now, install this chipset driver, restart your PC, bring yourself back over to the power plans, and you should then be seeing the AMD Ryzen based power plans. If you see balanced, go with balanced, but if you do see high performance, it is recommended to go with AMD Ryzen high performance. For those of you running on an Intel based system, you want to be going with the ultimate performance power plan. If this option is not available to you currently, that's absolutely fine, as you have to manually install this power plan to Windows, and it's very simple and easy to do. You need to navigate to the bottom left hand side, click on the Windows button, type in CMD, run the command prompt as an administrator. You then need to navigate down into the description down below and find the power plan command link. It should look very similar to this, just simply copy all of the text from the right hand side to the left, select copy, navigate back inside of the command prompt in which you opened up, then press Ctrl and V on your keyboard to paste that, then press enter. You should then be met with the Power Scheme GUID Ultimate Performance command. Exit out of the CMD, navigate back to the power options which we minimized earlier, navigate up to the top to the refresh button, scroll all the way down. You should now be seeing the ultimate performance power plan is now selectable. Select the power plan by clicking on the small circle next to it, and we're then good to go. Exit out of your power options, and that optimization has been applied. That then leads us on to the last and final optimization with inside of this entire video, and arguably one of the most important. For this, you need to navigate inside of the description down below and click on the ISLC download link. It will then bring you to the Intelligent Standby List Cleaner program. For a brief explanation, the ISLC program is a simple 2-in-1 optimization program. The first part of the program allows you to keep a reserve reserved pool of RAM in the background. The second part of the program comes in the form of the timer resolution application, which I've recommended for years. And this is a basic application which helps you reduce the input latency between the operating system, game application, and the hardware in your system to overall boost FPS and drastically reduce input latency, leaving you with a much snappier and responsive feeling game. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, find the official download here option, click on the download button. Once the program is downloaded, place it onto your desktop, double click on the file, select extract. You'll then be met with a folder on your desktop with an identical name. Simply double click and go inside of the folder, go over to the Intelligent Standby List Cleaner or ISLC application, boot into the application by double clicking, selecting yes, and this now requires a minor bit of setup. As you can see in the top left hand side, my standby list and system working set is currently using 12.9 gigabytes of my RAM. For the first box on the left hand side, set this to 1024. For the second box, this needs to be set to roughly half of your overall system memory, and this can be found at the top. So as you can see, for me, I have 32,700 megabytes. Roughly half of that number is going to be 16,000. Once that's them in set, now get over to the right hand side, check the option for enable custom time resolution. With inside of the box, set this to 0.50, then use the delete key to remove the other values. Then navigating down to the ISLC polling rate, go into the drop down menu, set this to 1000 for lower end PCs to medium end PCs, and from medium end to ultra high end PCs, set this to 500. We can then go to the top, click on purge standby list. That will then completely clear out your standby list in the background. As you can see, it's just removed 12 gig for me. Then navigate to the bottom right hand side, select start, minimize out of the program, leave the program running in the background, and we're then good to go. All there is to do now is to go ahead and boot into the game and fine tune our in-game settings. We're then going to be going into a vital optimization for any of you who are running on a laptop. To do this, it's recommended to have a HDMI plugged into the laptop. We're then going to plug the other end of the HDMI into an external display, such as a gaming monitor. Then what you'll simply do is follow the on-screen instructions shown here to disable the laptop screen so that the laptop screen is completely blacked out, leaving the laptop completely displayed on the secondary display. You will find that you'll be getting better FPS in nearly every single game and laptop out there by using this step. We then finally need to go ahead and boot into the game to set up our in-game settings and the process Lasso tool. So first of all, just simply go ahead and boot into the game. For those of you running with the latest Nvidia graphics card driver in which we installed earlier on, once you're inside of your game, navigate up to the top right hand side to the settings cog, go to the settings tab, go to the video tab found up here in the top, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and the option we're going to be looking for is titled Nvidia Reflex Low Latency. This option should now be available to you if you have installed the latest graphics card driver. If you do not see this option and you haven't updated, make sure that you do go back to that step and update your graphics card driver. Upon coming down to this setting, we're going to go into the drop down menu. It will be defaultly set to off. You can set this to on, but I would recommend actually going to on plus boost, as this will enable the technology alongside keeping your graphics card boosting at its higher clock frequencies for longer to ensure that you get better FPS over an extended period of time. The easiest way of explaining what this technology does in a nutshell, it basically acts as a dynamic FPS counter, which constantly caps to your FPS in which you're capable of getting. So you will see an FPS reduction of around about 1 or 2 frames, but you can see input latency reductions of up to 15 to 20%, depending on the scenario. So your game will feel a lot more snappy, fast, and responsive, alongside helping boost your FPS as well, as we can counteract the minor FPS hit from this by using the boost mode to ensure that we're getting a higher FPS anyway. For every single person watching this video, if you do have this option available to you, make sure that you use this, as you will not regret it, and you'll be seeing some phenomenal boosts from doing so. Once that's then been set, we can then go back to the main menu and continue on with the normal game settings. For those of you that chose to opt in for the process Lasso optimizations, you're going to go ahead and simply tab out of the game and leave the game open in the background and navigate back to the desktop. Ensure that the game is still running in the background. We can then open up inside of the process Lasso tool. With inside of here, it's best to go over to the CPU percentage tab and click on the CPU percentage tab. With inside of here, you should then be seeing VALORANT Win64 shipping.exe running in the background. We're then going to go ahead and right click on the client. First of all, going over to priority class, going to always and setting this to high. Once that's then been set, we're then going to be going back over to the application, this time going over to the IO priority, going over to always and setting this to high. Right clicking on the application once again, navigating down to induce performance mode, selecting this option, then pressing OK. Right clicking on the application one last time, this time going down to the more section, going into more, going into memory priority, always, and setting this down to normal. Once that's then been done, we can then go ahead and minimize out of the program, leave the program running in the background. We can then navigate back inside of the game. Then to set up and fine tune our in-game settings, we're going to be navigating up to the top right hand side, clicking on the settings cog, going to the settings menu. To start off with the general tab, most settings found within inside of this tab can be set to your personal preference as they do not affect FPS. Navigating to show mature content, we're actually going to be switching this off as this can improve FPS. Navigating down to network buffering, setting this to minimum. Show bullet traces should also be turned off if you wish to get the best FPS. FPS possible. Once those have been set, we can then navigate up to the top to the video tab. We're then going to start off by going over to our display mode, setting this to full screen. Resolution can be set to whichever resolution you want, but I would recommend going with the maximum resolution for your monitor. So for me, that's going to be 2560 by 1440, and make sure that you select the highest refresh rate available. We can then go down to limit FPS on battery, turn this off. Limit FPS in menus should be selected to on. Maximum FPS within inside of the menus should be set to 30. Limit FPS in the background should also be switched on, and this should be changed to 5. Limit FPS always should be switched off. Unless you wish to cap your FPS for any reason within inside of the game, you would leave this on. But if you want the best FPS possible and the lowest level of input latency, I'd recommend turning this off. We can then navigate over to the graphics tab in the middle. To start off with inside of here, multi-threaded rendering, it's recommended to have this turned to on. Material quality should be switched to low. Texture quality should also be switched to low. Detail quality low. UI quality I'd actually recommend setting to medium. Vignette I would recommend turning on. VSync should be switched to the off position. Anti-aliasing is recommended to have this set to none for the best FPS possible. Anisotropic filtering, set this to 1 for the best FPS, but for the best competitive advantage, in which I'd recommend over that, would actually be setting this to 8. This can be set to on or off depending on your personal preference. Bloom should be switched off, distortion off, and first person shadows should also be switched off. We can then navigate over to the stats tab. With inside of here, I'd recommend going over to client FPS and clicking on show both. Server tick rate, text only. Total frame time should be set to show both as well, so you can see the graph. And for the rest of the options with inside of here, you can set these to however you wish to do so. Once those have all been set up, I'd recommend going ahead and pressing close settings, navigating up to the top to play, navigate down to the bottom left hand side to practice, going into the shooting range. Once you guys have booted into the range, we're then going to simply press start, look around, shoot some bots, see how the game is, see what your FPS is like, and if you are happy with the results, that's absolutely fantastic. Do bear in mind that you can also come back with inside of the video settings, you can tweak them around even further. One thing that I would recommend doing is actually navigating up to your resolution tab and try out some lower resolutions depending on your system specs. If you notice that the game is slightly too blurry, do bear in mind that we did change this setting with inside of the config file earlier, and there you guys have it. That is the updated Ultimate FPS Increase Guide for Valorant. Hopefully you are happy with your results, and if you are, please do consider pressing that like button, as it does help me out tremendously, alongside leaving your results, questions, queries, or suggestions for other content that you'd like to see come to the channel in that comment section down below. And if you guys do enjoy this sort of content, please do consider pressing that subscription button alongside the bell notification to be notified instantly whenever a video goes live on the channel. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this video. I am Panjno, and I'll see you in the next one.